from the page pr.grigori-grabovoi.world, menu technical device, PRK-1U, English, point 5, the principle of work with the device PRK-1U, the mechanism of operation of the device PRK-1U. Testing of the device PRK-1U. The principle of work with the device, the mechanism of operation of the devices. The device for the development of the concentration of eternal life PRK-1U was created in accordance with my 2 patents. This is the first patent is method of prevention of catastrophes and device for its realization, and the second patent is information carrying system. Within this method, where a person generates a biosignal as written in the patent and directs to the optical systems, and the optical systems amplify this signal. In accordance with the patent information carrying system, the system works so that the signal is transmitted practically instantly and an increase in the action occurs. That is, the second action is almost immediately along with the first one. Due to this, a powerful level of increase of power of control emerges, which, by the way, just corresponds to the notion of a quantum leap, a high energy level, and due to this, a person's thought becomes more productive. The thinking is accelerated, then, according to the existing practice, the controlling clairvoyance develops in people. The difference of the controlling clairvoyance is that a person sees something that is not visible to their eyes at a great distance, and at the same time, by the effort of will, directs towards the better from the point of view of eternal life, eternal development. The controlling forecasting is developing similarly, that is, for the future time. Significant improvements take place in relation to the events that the person solves both in the spiritual sphere and at the physical level, including what concerns the human organism. The meaning of the whole patent is that a thought is regarded as a weak light signal, as a light signal which is transmitted through the crystal. In this case, this thought signal falls on the external lens and, in accordance with the patent information carrying system, is transmitted to the internal optical unit. The internal unit is built in accordance with the patent method of prevention of catastrophes and device for its realization, exactly of this device PRK-1U. And the signal that comes from a thought is processed due to the optical transmissions of light, then an electric magnetic, that is an electromagnetic field due to microelectronic components is added. And then the principle of duality, which is in physics, is used, that is, you can treat any matter as a wave and as a particle. When I was conducting, of course, directly the setting up of the optical unit in combination with the electromagnetic field, I added the possibility, my personal ability of the controlling clairvoyance. Next please. Page 1, last part.
Well, in fact, the device itself develops the controlling clairvoyance, organizes the concentration of eternal life, base the controlling clairvoyance, then the concentration of eternal life for the controlling forecasting, and the concentration of eternal life for any event. At the same time, there is a function of the device to concentrate, to develop the concentration of eternal life for rejuvenation. And therefore, the name is the device for the development of concentration. It is called the device for development of concentration, PRK-1U. The index U is in the name means that the spectrum of application is universal. While there is a number of devices, different ones, which relate to medicine, engineering, and so on. And why it is called precisely for the concentration that relate to eternal life is because the device allocates a frequency spectrum that corresponds exactly to the vibrational characteristics of the macromatter, that is, to the structure of eternity. That is, the device emits, in fact, the field characteristic of eternity. And due to this happens, due to the principle of duality, the imposition of vibrational characteristics of the material structure of man, it is superimposed as if in a coherent version, it is superimposed on this vibration. And we get the effect which is now felt by everyone who has the tests. Here, the whole structure of the world, which is visible with the help of controlling clairvoyance, stands out in definite form. This very form gives the light irradiation of eternity. The field form, I transfer the form into vibration. That is, the form, any form, emits some kind of light. Accordingly, if all information of the world is transferred into a form, this form has volume and it emits light. The very form I single out through the controlling clairvoyance. At the same time, there is a form corresponding to the human cell, and accordingly, this form also emits a certain so-called angular radiation coefficient. Due to the angular coefficient, it is possible to calculate accurately which and how much light is emitted by a specific geometric figure and how much of the light falls on another geometric figure. Thus, just a structure that in fact corresponds to eternity and a separate cell of the body and the amount of radiation is calculated there between the cell and the entire shape of the whole world. Then the reverse mathematical problem is solved simply enough. That is, what radiation should be from the cell so that the cell is eternal, and the device by means of optical and electromagnetic actions increases this intensity. Well, this way, when the device is turned up, people start to feel this structure of eternity. That is, a certain structure of light, which can be identified, described by the characteristic of this field and the characteristics of the substance. That is, to use both the corpuscular model of a particle and the wave model. It can be both a field and a particle. At this time, those who had the test, about 100 people have tested this device. And all, without exception, immediately from the first time feel exactly this? Well, it can be more called as a field, and such characteristics that correspond to eternal life appear, without which correspond to longevity, such as a sense of reducing body weight, or as a type of levitation, a feeling of less body weight, lightness. Next, please.
I can take over now. I can see it. Then many persons, if they have any problems related to health, feel locally the influx of heat into this place, the heat. And at the level of physical laws, at the quantum mechanical level, the strengthening of the structure of matter towards eternity occurs. The substance strengthens in the direction of eternity. The characteristics that the intrinsic to the substance are changed respectively there. For example, as of the structure of plasticity, the structure of elasticity of the material becomes more stable if the tests are conducted in the laboratory conditions on a substance. When this device is turned on, it is possible to see a very powerful increase in the intensity of the radiation of the thought. And you can see how the radiation of thought falls into the structure of the organism, into the material structure of the organism. And considering that, accordingly, due to the thought, which is also light, one can influence the matter of the organism. If we consider it as a wave as at the macro level, then it turns out that due to thinking, the organism, and not only the organism, but the objects of the external world, can be normalized. And in fact, this device just develops this ability. But when the man's ability has been already developed, the device becomes unnecessary. And the characteristics of the device includes the following information: that when working with development for controlling forecasting, this task is poised to learn how to work independently so that the use of the device is not needed anymore. And accordingly, this class of devices of this type solves such a problem that under the conditions of cybernation of the future, when there are many cybernetic systems, man does not depend on instrument systems and infinite development. The system of safe eternal development of mankind, living organisms in general, and accordingly the task of this device is to create such a direction of the class of devices, to create a direction in instrument making when the device is not dangerous because it is controlled by consciousness. Well, it is one of the system's tasks of this class of devices, and can be seen from the logic. It is clear from the logic that if the device is controlled by consciousness, then safety of the device is maximum. For setting the device, I consider interaction. Firstly, of this level of eternal life that exists in the birth of man. I look then what kind of development happens in the future when we work independently for some time. It turns out that this level, there is a certain sphere of eternal life which exists in man at birth, depending on its segments in some way, manifests itself in different parts of the body in different ways. There is, for example, a sphere located in the region of the lumbar spine. Then the light from the sphere passes through the body, and I begin to connect geometrically that matter of eternal life that is generated by the device with what comes from primary level of man's birth. That is, with what comes from God, as it created by God. Further, it means that when these glows join together, it turns out exactly this plan for joining the light of eternity, coming from man and from the device. This is a special task that requires controlling clairvoyance to make this journey quickly and accurately.